everyone, welcome back to After the Fact. This is part 2 of AJ and my discussion of WandaVision. So let's pick up where we left off and get back to the conversation. So episode 8 on, there's no more sitcom. This is all in MCU universe at this point. We get to see her origin where she was in the Salem witch trials, except it wasn't commoners burning her at the stake. It was witches burning her because she was too powerful or knew magic she didn't need to know.
Right.
And then they try to like burn her, which I watched that whole episode 8 felt very Sam Raimi to me. Like I've seen scenes from Drag Me to Hell, which was directed by Sam Raimi and written by him. And I don't know, like the burning at the stake where they like shoot all the magic energy at her. She had that like this orange glow, like almost resembled flames almost.
Right.
It was very reminiscent to that scene where Christine gets dragged to hell a little bit, but instead of, that happening, she's, it's Agnes. She's like, I don't give a crap. This is absorbed, whatever.
Right.
And then just kills everyone.
I mean, it's like, was it even confirmed what they were trying to do? I'm like, oh no, they're bluing her. Like, were they trying to suck her power out? Like, what were they really trying to do?
Yeah, we're trying to make her blue. Dabba dee babba die.
And then she fights back. It's like,
doing.
oh no, she's purpling their blue. I'm like, okay. Secondary colors.
Well, the purple indicates her magic.
Right.
So
it was just a way to, to visualize that she was taking over, that moment.
Well, we get a like another version of this in episode 9 when Wanda tries to do it to her, the same scene where she pretends to be all like, in trouble or in peril, and then she just makes that shift in her personality. It's like, really, bitch? You think this is gonna fool me? Mm-mm.
Right, yeah, and it kind of backfired a little bit.
Yeah. But when we finally cut back to out of the memory, we see we see her actually, as they're portraying her as the villain here, but we also see her teaching Wanda in this sense, because Agatha Harkness, her character, is Wanda's mentor in the comics, and in some instances she is kind of a villain, but she's more of a neutral character.
Chaotic neutral, yeah.
Probably chaotic neutral, yes. But here in this series, she's more the villain. But I mean, I'm hearing words going around that she's the new Loki. Like, the reason I say new Loki is that everyone loved Loki, especially after Avengers.
Right.
So it's like, well, they love Loki. We can't really get rid of him. I mean, like, hell, he even died in Infinity War, and there's a series coming of him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a funny connection there, because, like, what was that one scene in Ragnarok? It's like, I'm not a witch, really? Then why are you dressed like one?
Yeah. Ragnarok was amazing.
Best MCU film, by the way.
Like, one of my top 5, like, MCU movies.
To me, yeah, Ragnarok and Infinity War are tied, in my opinion, for best MCU movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so we get this really cool sequence where we get to see Wanda go back through her traumatic past to, like, for Agatha to try to figure out who she is. And this is where the commercials kind of connect too. So if you like in each sitcom, we got a commercial which symbolized, it was everyone was trying to figure out what it symbolized in these commercials. Were they like messages to Wanda, or someone trying to reach out to Wanda, or what were they? What was going on?
To me, it just seemed like just visualizations and representations of the things that traumatized her and she felt guilty about.
Yes.
Which
I agree with, especially so the first flashback or memory we see of Wanda is her with her family. Really cool way of tying in how she watched sitcoms was that was how she learned English.
Yeah.
Which is a real way people learn.
That's actually pretty accurate. A lot of people in other countries do that.
RM from BTS actually learned English from watching Friends. So this is a real thing. Like, people actually will learn English through this, which also explains, like, why her accent kind of fluctuates too. She wants to go back through sitcom her and real her.
Right.
And then we get the boom, which another jump scare right there. Which is the scene that was explained in Age of Ultron, where Pietro was talking about how a shell hit them and then it never went off. And which is also a callback to episode 1's commercial, remember the flashing light, and it sounds like a bomb that's about to go off,
Yeah.
which is what the Stark like bombshell sounds like,
And
which is
wasn't that
also
the scene where like you saw the blinking red light, and that was the first time you saw any kind of color? Yeah.
yeah, that was the first color that you saw in the series. And we come to find out it just didn't go off. She made it not go off by using the probability hex. And that just goes to show you she had magic this whole time. And even Catherine Agatha was like, "Where'd you get the big guns? Like, where'd you get it?"
Yeah.
But then we get the Hydra scene, which was kind of a combination of the second and third commercial, where the second commercial was about her Strucker watch, and I think one of the characters was Strucker, just recast. And then we get the Hydra soak, which was when the Mind Stone just washed over her. I thought for the longest time when they showed that preview in like the WandaVision series, I thought that was like her trying to make Vision again or something. Because that was part of the promos.
Yeah.
And then but then we get this glorious shot of just this like image of comic Scarlet Witch coming down, just like going into her, and then she passes out, and then we see that it was never caught on video because this was Wanda's first foray into editing.
Of course.
She spent a lot of time editing for sitcoms. I mean, she would be a really good editor. Someone needs to hire her.
She'd be a good main
she'd
cast
be good at a lot
too.
of things. Editor, like she could build houses.
She'd be good
stuff.
as my wife. You know.
She would, yeah. She's great at a lot of things. And then we go into an awesome scene between her and Vision in this post-Civil War, pre-Civil War, post-Ultron,
Yeah.
thing.
I don't care how many memes it spawned. It was fucking gold.
Oh, I didn't see any memes.
Oh my
from
god, I could.
that.
I could. Oh my god, I could tell you that so many later on, but yeah.
I didn't see meme. I was more like, this is if there was like, I mean, if there's like a screen, I'm sure there's a screenwriting Emmy or something. If there was a scene to like submit for nominations for an Emmy, that would be it.
Yeah, and like for Paul Bettany to win some more awards because, goddamn, he just kills it every time.
It was that line. What is grief if not love persevering? It's just like, what the hell?
Because you think about it, you're like, fuck, that's actually true. In most cases, and you can see it even got through to Wanda in that moment.
And Vision was like probably the only person that could get through the Wanda in that sense. Well, I guess Agatha could too, because she's literally putting her through this, but
right,
she's more blunt about it. Vision's more gentle.
Well, they connected not only in what was kind of the closest thing you can come to emotions, because Vision's a machine, but the fact they're also part of Mind Stone. They have that connection there.
Mm-hmm. And then we get the scene that a lot of people were waiting for: her going into Sword to get Vision's body back. And again, Hayward's a dick. This is one thing that also kind of threw me. He didn't refer to Vision as he referred to him as it. I mean, because to him, he sees him more as an object.
That's government property.
Person.
That's how
he sees him as property. He doesn't see him as a person. Which, like, and Wanda's just like, no, he I just want to bury him. Yeah, and I mean, Hayward does finally say he isn't yours, but it's like, oof.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, we don't like Hayward, but like nothing he said during that exchange wasn't technically like untrue. You know what I mean?
It wasn't untrue, but he wasn't.
Like, Vision didn't belong to Wanda. He is government property. He is $3 billion worth of vibranium.
He was trying to push Wanda into doing causing a scene.
Oh, for sure.
Which, I mean, she did.
But the fact that he didn't really have to lie or anything in order to do that, yeah, it just kind of shows you the grim reality of Wanda's reality.
And then one of the heartbreaking scenes in this episode specifically was her going up to feel his head and just saying, "I can't feel you," which is a callback to Infinity War, where she feels his head and says, "I just feel you."
That
It's just,
mm,
whew.
that was one of the scenes that really endeared me to her.
And then she just leaves. Like, doesn't even, like this. That, I was like, wait, where are you going? Why didn't you take him?
She's so overcome with grief at that point that she just was defeated in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then we saw what she did when she got back to New Jersey.
Was I also surprised? Were you surprised as me that she actually drove a car?
I wouldn't say I was surprised, but it made me think, like, there probably isn't any really good, juicy explanations to, like, why or why not. The world knows the Avengers are a thing. She could fly around all she wants. I mean, maybe for transporting Vision's remains, it would have been easier to have a car. But, again, she's got floaty magic, so, like, who cares?
I think she had the intention to go in to take him, but after finding out that he wasn't like there, she was just like, "There's no point. Even if I did bury him,
Right.
like it wouldn't have mattered."
And maybe
So,
she would have seemed more threatening if she just kind of like flew in with all of her red glowy stuff, but she wanted to drive her Buick or whatever to seem more normal.
just drive a Buick.
I don't even know what it was.
I think I don't. I'll have to go back and watch it, but yeah, for her to go in and like peacefully try to receive him, and for the most part staying that way. Yeah, she did shatter the glass, and I think she was going to want to take him, but in the end was like, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to walk away.
Which is cool to see, because if she wanted to, it would not have taken much effort on her part.
Oh gosh, she would have definitely just busted
without
right
even
in.
killing anybody. She could have just
Yeah.
frozen with a flick of her wrist, frozen everyone in place, and flew out of there.
No wrist.
Look at that. Yeah,
She
like
would've
it would
done
have
it,
taken
yeah.
no effort. But again, you could call that either character development on her part, or her being so grief struck by not being able to feel him that she was reminded that, like, yeah, there's really no point in this, and I have nothing, and I'm sad.
So when we finally see Westview before the hex, we see all the characters. We see Mary Jo Rupp, aka the mom from That 70s Show. We see Herb, and then we see all the other characters like just walking about. Man, they just look dejected. But then again, this is like shortly after the blip too.
Well, it's also rural New Jersey. We're not really super happy out here.
Oh, for those who don't know, AJ does live in New Jersey.
I do live in New Jersey.
So
yeah,
he has a personal connection with this show.
I do, and I'm like, wow, this looks just like yeah, exactly.
It's like, wow, I didn't know we had a city that looked like the backlot in Universal Studios.
Yeah, I mean, like, New Jersey, like, the eastern half is all cities and beaches. The western half is, like, cornfields and rinky-dink towns for the most part. So, yeah, personal connection there.
But I think the definite tearjerker part of this episode was when she went to this plot of land, which was a unfinished house, or there wasn't even a foundation or anything. It just started its building process. She pulls out the paper that she had in the car, and it's a deed to the property that was given to her by Vision, and it says for her to grow old in V, which, don't know if you caught this, but you notice how it had a heart in it. That's a throwback to the first episode. Remember on the calendar there was a heart on the calendar?
Yeah.
Yeah,
which spawned that whole I Love Lucy-esque fiasco. Like, I know what day it is. Well, so do I.
Yeah.
Well, then what is it?
So, and then there's just this shot of her just like approaching and just starting to like break down, and whew.
Yeah.
Like, my mom watched this series too. Like,
oh, really?
She doesn't watch any Marvel stuff. And I just asked her if she would be interested, because I know she would get a kick out of the sitcom side of it.
Right.
And she was crying at that. She was like, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't think she would, because she's like, she's in love with the robot.
Yeah,
Why?
and she doesn't, and your mom doesn't have the the connection to Marvel that obviously you do, but that
although she knows who like Tony Stark and Iron Man is. She just doesn't know like what an Infinity Stone is. Right. She has no idea. But then in this scene, I was gonna
say, I feel like, again, in Marvel fashion, they kind of yada over how she just like made that all happen. Like, we're waiting for all this explanation and analysis of like how this whole hex came into being, and like they wait to the very end. Oh, she was really sad and she made it. I'm like, oh,
I wouldn't
Okay.
just say it was her being really sad.
I know,
Because
but
remember,
like
this.
that's like the Reader's Digest version. Like, okay.
No, I don't think so. Because you gotta think. I mean, if you're watching this, if this is the only Marvel series you've seen, or Marvel anything, then yeah, it might seem like that. But like, if you've seen her since Age of Ultron, you know that this girl has gone through so much
Of
shit. Like
course.
her parents were killed by a bomb.
Right.
Her brother was shot and killed in Sokovia.
Yep.
And then Vision not only died once but twice in
Twice.
front of her.
She anything
She
she
was
ever had, she
blipped.
lost.
She was blipped. So there's another fourth traumatic encounter.
Yeah.
So
Although
this
the nice
girl,
little
like,
touch of Infinity War is when she was getting snapped, she was the one who actually kind of seemed to embrace it a little bit, which was I think was a nice little
a little
touch. Like, you
bit.
know what, that's realistic. Anyone who's lost as much as she has probably would at that point. You know, like when she was getting snapped,
But
she seemed happy about it.
I think she'd be more upset that if Vision was still alive and they both got snapped, they'd be more like, in a sense together.
Right.
But yeah, like, so she's built up so much grief, and she's never had a great time to actually process that grief.
No.
So like, she's never been able to mourn or anything like that. So when it all just culminated in this psychotic break, that's why her magic just explode. And it was a callback to also when Pietro died in Ultron. She falls down and has that psychic scream where it just kills all the robots or destroys all the robots near her.
Yeah.
She
Which is creepy.
This time it's just like she's calling, like, she wants to call back to, a much happier lifestyle, which is why it's a sitcom, because her escape was sitcoms.
Yeah.
This is
It's
why
the last
and
time
and
she
then
was
she
happy was
just
when she was a kid watching sitcoms.
Mhm. So she, to her knowledge though, she just makes this little pocket universe where she can live out her life and not have to worry about, outside interference. And not only that though, after she did that explosion, the whole town got changed. We see her, like, literally form Vision in front of her, manifesting him from her.
That was a little weird. Not gonna lie.
I thought it was at first, and then I was like, no, it kind of makes sense, because I mean, the idea was planted in her head by Hayward
Right.
about not everyone has the ability to recreate their own loved one.
Right.
So for him to say that, the idea is planted in her head, and she has chaos magic, so her magic is completely unpredictable. So she does, and her magic does have the ability to create things, which is why she made her own kids.
Which is weird that she kind of made the rule earlier, a few episodes back, like, and no resurrecting the dead, like talking about when the dog died. She's like, we can't resurrect the dead. Like, mommy, you can do magic, or I like that
it was slightly hypocritical.
right. And I like that little tie-in of that, because I mean, a lot of people would say that's morally murky to bring dead people back, but
Right.
anyway.
Well, for her, it's like, because the thing is, Vision, the reason Vision even manifested in the first place was because he had the Mind Stone in him,
Right.
and when it was plucked out, that killed him.
Right.
And so because her magic did come from the Mind Stone, and she had such connection with Vision, and she used his Mind Stone before, she was able to just manifest him. But
Right.
then again, there's stipulations. He can't leave, because if he leaves, he just breaks apart.
Because he's connected to that, because it was all manifested as one entity.
And then after that whole thing, we see her, like, step in, and it's like, oh no, she's gone. Like, she is gone.
Yeah.
And then, but for her to go through this, like, as kind of messed up as it was for Agatha to have her go through this is what she needed.
It explored a lot of depth to her own trauma, and it gave us a lot of extra depth too.
Right, and it gave us answers. Like, we went, like, how did this happen? How did you do this?
Yeah, well, kind of.
And then I thought it was a nice little Easter egg where they just had her in the studio set that they actually filmed the first episode. Like, that was where they filmed it, and they did actually use a live studio audience for the first episode.
Yeah.
So, and then we see Agatha in her actual full outfit, and her puppeting or choking the life out of kids, which was crazy. And then we get the name drop. We get the words chaos magic, which was the first time that's ever been used in the MCU.
Right.
And then we get the Scarlet Witch,
You
which was
are the
alluded
Scarlet
to,
Witch.
which we all thought it was originally going to be alluded to in episode 5 when Hayward's like, doesn't she have some sort of nickname or call sign or something? And
Right.
Jimmy's like, no. But we finally get it, and it's like, oh. And then we get the showdown at the last episode, which is all the action budget wins.
Right. Yeah, I find it interesting how there's with us seeing like the flashback to like the witch trials and all that, like having her being called the Scarlet Witch in the same episode that we see flashbacks to the witch trials. Like, you ever read the Scarlet Letter in high school? Like,
yes, it had very.
I'm like, I find that
it was very
I'm
similar.
sure it had nothing to do with it really, but I like how that was a
Right.
neat little like nod to that.
I think Eric Voss in New Rockstars mentioned something about Scarlet Letter. It was either him or Screen.
Well, because Scarlet Letter took place in that same time period, didn't it?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was different. Like in Salem Witch Trials, it was a witch, and everyone thought the Scarlet Letter she was being an adulterer and stuff. But
it was still a similar time period, though. If not
yeah,
mistaken.
it has parallels to it, though. Is the
yeah?
point.
So I find that it's like a new little context.
I completely forgot to mention the post credit scene from episode 8, which was, Vision's not dead anymore. In a way, he's not. He got resurrected all because Wanda threw that drone back out, enhanced by her magic, and they took her magic to make Vision real again. But this time he's White Vision.
Yeah, he's White Walker Vision.
Yeah, White Walker Vision. Yeah, he which is actually a nod to West Coast Avengers, which he eventually in West Coast Avengers Vision was kidnapped and deconstructed, and when they reconstructed him, he was a White Vision, and he didn't retain the emotions from the original Vision.
Not the emotions, but he still had the logic and the capacity to process information.
He had the logic, the capacity, and I think the memories in the comics.
Right.
But he didn't love Wanda anymore, which was the big, like, heartbreaker moment.
But
in that series,
Red Vision was able to like reason with him because he still had the same capacity to think.
That whole little scene there was I was like, I'm glad it's not just an all-out fight between the two Visions. I'm glad they're actually having like a debate,
a battle of the mind. Well, of course. Like, what would a finale be involving Vision if there wasn't some sort of battle of the minds? The
whole ship of Theseus discussion, that was. Yeah. I mean, I learned something. I didn't know about the ship of Theseus.
I wasn't super up to speed on that myself.
So I'm glad. Thank you, Paul Bettany, and
Paul Bettany's a fucking treasure.
Also, he's also kind of a troll too, because in the interviews leading up to WandaVision, he said there was going to be an epic shattering cameo of an actor he always wanted to work with, and just find out it's him.
I've always wanted to work with myself.
It's like, you're such a troll.
You know what? I love it. I'm okay with it.
No, it was great. I eventually was fine with it, because I thought if they had like an epic cameo at the end, it would kind of take away from the main actors.
Yeah, it would kind of take you out of the moment a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm glad they kept it in. But this whole showdown, like, I mean, we had a lot of action scenes, and then when White Vision did show up and almost crushed Wanda's skull.
Yeah, that was a little
that was crazy.
Yeah.
Then we see the scene with we finally, that's where we realize who Pietro really is. He's Ralph, who was mentioned all throughout the series from Agatha, and Ralph Boner, which did not sit well with a lot of the Quicksilver fans.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it just as a joke, it just didn't really land.
Yeah. But I mean, at this point, like when I was watching the last episode, this looked entirely like an actual MCU movie at this point.
Yeah.
So it didn't feel like a TV series. It actually felt like the last scene in a Marvel movie where all the action comes out.
Yeah, they definitely went back to the roots on that one. I liked it.
Yeah, we get the scene where Agatha tells her about how she has her own chapter in the Darkhold for the Scarlet Witch, and that she's going to destroy the world. And then we get that, and then we see the cutting of the strings where Dottie, aka Sarah, who, by the way, her character's name is Sarah Proctor, who was one of the people that was on trial in the original Salem Witch trials.
Wasn't that John Proctor's wife?
John Proctor's wife. Yeah, but
Look at me knowing
she did
English.
not. She did not get convicted.
But he did.
He or her father did. I don't know if he. I think. Well, he did in the movie. I don't know if he actually did in real life.
Remember my name. Or...
Remember.
Yeah.
And they said the Lord's Prayer before he got hung.
Yeah. That was a messed up time period.
It was a messed up
in
movie.
U.S. history.
Oh, great acting by Winona Ryder though. Like,
yeah.
damn.
I mean, I like her. Like, I think she gets a bit of a bad rap, but I like her.
Or one of the things that Monica noticed about Ralph was that he was being controlled by the necklace, which she noticed because she had seen Agatha's magic from the vines in the credit scene from episode 7 and tied that to Agatha and saw that it was radiating from the necklace, so she pulled it out.
Yeah.
Then when we cut back to Wanda in the town, after Agatha says that she is a chapter in the Darkhold, she cuts Dottie's strings, and Dottie says, "My name's Sarah. Can you just let my kid out? Like I just want to see my daughter." And I'm like, ooh.
And she starts cutting all the strings. What? And I'm like, oof, this is getting rough.
Like, to learn that like all the kids were asleep and in like trapped in their rooms. I don't know, that's dark.
Yeah.
And then which I was surprised that they didn't go up and like start like try to like burn her at the stake or anything. They were just questioning her, like, what am I? I don't even know what I am anymore. I mean, what's going on?
Had they given it time, some shit like that probably would have. I mean, not that they come on, it's Scarlet Witch, they can't overpower her, but like right. I'm sure at some point that would have come to fruition. Because come on, once they gain their bearings, they know what's happened. They know what she's responsible for. They definitely would have wanted to see her dead.
Oh my gosh, but when she like starts to scream in pain and stuff and everyone else was starting to get choked, and then you just see Deborah, like Joe Rupp, be like, "If you won't let us leave, why don't you just kill us?" I'm like, "Don't kill her! Do not kill that woman! Don't you hurt her!
Yeah,
don't!"
And then Wanda's still trying to convince him everything's gonna be okay. And that's kind of like the theme of Wanda, is that like, you know, her role in a lot of times has been a hero, quote unquote. But like here, she's trying to tell everybody else everything's gonna be okay. She's not even okay, and she doesn't even know what she's talking about anymore. But she's it's still in her nature to try, because this last ditch effort to like maintain her reality. No, guys, everything's okay. We're going to work, and you're the nosy neighbor. You know, she's just desperately clinging to the idea of what her reality could be, even though it's long gone.
What also ties back to like her stages of grief, like bargaining is one of the stages where she's trying to reason with them, saying like, "No, you guys are happy though. You guys like you have a perfect life and everything." But when she finds out, no, she's making them suffer. It's like, oh,
that's
snap.
Linked directly to denial. They're definitely intertwined, those two stages.
So she goes to let him leave, but as soon as she starts to close out the hex, that's when that's when Vision and her children start to disappear. Because I didn't know that her children were going to disappear. I knew that Vision was tied to it. I didn't know her kids would still be. But to see that happen, it's like, oh no, she's going to be alone again. Damn it.
And that's what she realized, and she couldn't do it. And like when she saw it happening in front of her, she couldn't do it. Which is why I could never hate Wanda. I could never see her as like is she a hero in this show? Not in the slightest. But like I could never see her as a true bad guy. She's just well written.
She's a very sympathetic villain.
Yeah.
I mean, she's had so much drama, and so I sympathize with her. I still think what she did was wrong.
Of course. Yeah.
But again, she didn't know what she was doing either. But now that she realizes what she's doing, she's going to learn about it. But before any of that, when she does try to break out the hex, that's when Hayward and the team moves in. Jimmy finally, gets contact with the FBI. Nice little scene where he grabs the phone and unhitches his.
Nobody saw that, but yeah.
He unhitches his cuffs and he just goes flourish.
Think you'd be here within the hour?
Can you be here, please? Quickly.
And then when Darcy rammed Hayward's Jeep with the fucking clown car or whatever that was, and I knew that was gonna happen too. I'm like, I was literally waiting because it was like fucking Chekhov's circus van. Like I was waiting for that to come back in.
I love her line, "Have fun in prison."
Yeah, that was such a Darcy move.
As the only line she said in the episode, but it was worth it.
Yeah, that was
great.
Pure Darcy. Loved it. But
And then we get this cool superhero shot once Vision, Wanda, and the kids are together, which is a homage to the
yeah,
Incredibles.
yeah,
I
I
thought
thought
that
that
was
too.
great. And the kids, they have their own way of protecting themselves. They although Hayward again, proving to be the dick he is, pulled a gun and started shooting at kids.
Yeah, again,
What the hell?
that seemed out of nowhere even for him. Like you could say he just wanted to see what would happen, like, oh, let's see what these kids can do, but it still seems a little bit over the top. I think at this point they were just making him so comically douchey that you
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but to see Monica jump in front and take the bullets because she could. And then the one I can't remember which kid was which. Like he was like slowing the bullets down. I was like, yeah, we can do things too.
Oh, Tommy. Oh no, Billy was the one who slowed him down.
Yeah.
Tommy's the one who's the super speed.
And I was like, yeah, we can
Yeah.
do that too.
And then after Vision reasoned with the Vision, he gave him his memories back, and then after he said "I am Vision," he just like, okay,
Yeah,
bye.
he's like, yeah. That's what I was thinking later on after the episode. And I'm like, wait a minute, did White Walker Vision just piece out? Like what?
He just peaced. He was like, I'm gone.
Like
I think he went to go get answers.
from where?
And then, but I think I don't know where he's gonna. I mean, he has his memories, so he knows people. He did, but I also don't think he realizes that one of his creators, Tony Stark, is dead.
I
So
feel like a part of
he's
it
gonna
was
have to find
just.
that out.
I think again, part of that was I feel like the screenwriters just need to get him out of the way because he served his purpose, and he just had no more use for being there. But
I think he's. I mean, we're gonna see him again.
oh, of course, that's
Like
just how that works.
I know we will. But I mean, because I think one of the things Paul Bettany said in the interview is like, I can't say too much because I fear of getting fired.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and he had already finished his scenes in WandaVision, so that basically means that he doesn't want to say anything because he is potentially going to be in the future, which after seeing White Vision say see ya, that basically confirms it. Then we see that we get a nice callback to Age of Ultron where Wanda like creepily sneaks up on Agatha and just does the wiggly woos with her head.
Yeah.
That was great. And then after that, like there's a witch fight. There's just a scene where it's just like one is like, I don't want any of this, just take all of it.
Yeah.
And she made it seem like like that I really don't want any of this. And I was watching, it's like, why are you missing? You're too angry, you're missing.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Well,
And then when all her magic got drained and Agatha went to go and nothing happened. And
only
then
the witch who casts her runes can use her magic.
Yep, Wanda is a good student.
And she goes, thanks for
She
the
took
lesson.
notes.
Yeah, I mean,
I thought that was a great reveal. Like I was like, oh yes.
yeah, they made good use of Chekhov's this and that. Like like they showed the runes and the explanation. You're like, and you made a note like, right, that's gonna come up again.
Mm-hmm. Especially when they said it in the previously segment.
Right.
Like normally, if you see like a random scene like they did this in Once Upon a Time when it was still airing. Like they would show like what happened on the previous episode, and then they show something that happened in like 2 seasons past, and then it's like, why are they showing this? And then and then you see the episode, and it's like,
Oh yeah, there's a very specific
okay, they're
reason
trying
they
to
want you
remind
to
us of
remember
this
that.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like this is gonna come up. Like it's like, why are they talking about Tallahassee in the flashback? And then you see why.
Right. Yeah.
But then the reveal all nerds had been waiting for. The reveal of the actual Scarlet Witch. And big freaking props to the costume design, because I was so worried how they were going to make her look, because if you've seen how Scarlet Witch looks in the comics, she doesn't look that great. I think she looks more goofy to me. I mean, say if you like how she looks in the comics, that's fine. Everyone has their own opinions. I was just worried about how they were going to make her look in the MCU, because there are some like characters who are very faithful to their original counterparts, and then you have some who are not. Like when when Wanda was first introduced, she didn't have her she didn't have her tiara crown or like the the bodysuit and stuff, she had a leather jacket
Yeah,
and like a long leather jacket and stuff.
which I was still fine with. I thought that looked great personally.
It was still great. It looked really cool on her. But the fact that they kind of fused both her leather jacket and her actual like Scarlet Witch appearance in the comics,
Yeah,
like that looked so freaking cool.
yeah,
Like she had the black
because like
pants.
comic assets don't always translate super well to like on
Hmm.
film. They can come off looking kind of goofy and chintzy.
Yeah.
Like I feel
I
like
was even worried about how the tiara was gonna look.
yeah, like I feel like that's something that Marvel does better than other comic book movie franchises is translating comic stuff to cinema without it looking like
Mm,
ridiculous. They do a good job
right.
with that, and that they did a good job with it here too. I cannot talk. It's getting late. I'm sorry.
And you'll notice after she changed, like her accent pretty much stayed after that.
Yeah.
Like it kind of went back and forth even in the fights. It didn't like you could still hear the hint of her accent, but I think she still kind of like tried to keep it like American, not Americanized, but like like her sitcom personality. But
Right.
as soon as she made that change, it was like, nope, she's accepting it again.
Yeah,
She's
I
back
was gonna say
to
it
herself.
felt like another way of personifying her, like accepting who she is, and like not only that, but also accepting her grief. And like
Hmm.
with consistency, comes that level of acceptance. I think that was a nice little subtle hint that she's on the road to acceptance.
Right. And then at the ends we see that the whole world is shrinking back down, it's going back to normal, and both her and her family are walking back to the house, and we get this scene where she, like before that scene, like where she says to her boys, "Thank you for choosing me to be your mom." I thought it was really cute. Although they seem very okay with being about to be deleted.
Right.
Like I think they'd be more like scared, but I guess they realize it's like there's nothing really they can do about it. So it's like, okay, we'll just go to sleep. But I think it was a nice way to end that, like tucking them in to go to bed.
Yeah.
I think was a nice touch for it. And then the whole like scene about like her telling Vision who he is, and
Yeah.
like
And then that whole like was it we've said goodbye before, so it stands to reason we'll say
we'll
hello
say hello
again.
again.
Ah, I'm like,
Yeah.
Paul Bettany, stop.
Like this, I gotta say, like this whole series this isn't just like a series, like this is a masterpiece. Like yes, it has its flaws, there's things that they could have tied up and
And
stuff, but
explain better, yeah, for sure.
like if you look at this as like if you look at this whole series as a like an example of processing grief, it's a masterpiece.
We could honestly
Like
do a
yeah.
whole segment on that alone if we really wanted to.
Hmm.
Like, 'cause there's so much
We
to
could.
unpack there.
Yeah,
Write that down.
and
Write that
just to
down.
see her write that down. And then just to watch him fade away, and then her to revert back to her how she looked before the whole thing started. Which you'll notice that the last shot you see before she goes back, like it cuts away to her original outfit. You'll see the ring in her hand, and then when they cut to her in the other scene, the ring's gone. And it was so painful. Like this is the third time she's had to say bye to him.
Right. And then we get that. Was it just the end of the episode, or was it the post credit scene where she's like,
Well, before that, like she goes back into the town, and now we see everyone's giving her the stink eye. Like, look what you did. Like, what are you
right?
doing
Well,
here? What are you doing?
I mean, like after that, where she's like in the little cabin,
Right.
like,
Mm-hmm.
what the
We
hell was
could,
going
yeah,
on
we can
there?
talk about that first. Yeah.
Oh, did you
I
want
was
to wait?
like,
Did you want to wait? Did you want to curb that until like the very end, or
I wanted to curb that until after, well, because I'm trying to go in order.
okay, that's fine. Sorry,
Um,
I'm jumping around.
but no, you're good. No, I'm excited to talk about that because I'm just that has a lot of there's a lot of speculation on what happens here. But she goes to say bye to Monica, and Monica, even though the townsfolk resent Wanda, they don't understand what she went through. Monica does.
And there's
It's
nothing
like,
they can do about it
look, I
anyway.
don't look. Yeah, look, I don't hate you. If you given this circumstance, I would have done the same thing. I would have brought my mom back though.
Yeah,
So
that was
we
nice.
yeah we hear that Wanda's like, I don't know this power, but I'm going to figure it out. And then she goes into her she goes into her Red Riding version of her outfit, and zoom goes off. She does look a little bit like Red Riding Hood when she's in her Scarlet Witch outfit, only when the hood's up. When like the one without the hood, she doesn't. But
Right.
I think at this point she's like, you know what? I don't need the car anymore.
Yeah, it finally clicks
I'm
that she
just gonna
doesn't need
fly
to
off.
drive and like do normal mundane human stuff.
So after this, we get the first post credit scene for this series or for this episode, where Monica's called in to. Well, we see Hayward getting arrested. Yes. And then we see Monica getting called in, and wouldn't you know it, it's a scroll.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, yep, she's getting her own show.
I don't think it's her own show. I think she's going to meet up with Fury, and they're going to do some stuff. So either I mean, because I think she is going to be in I think she's going to be in what's the I can't even remember. Secret Invasion. That's what it's called. Which is a series that they will be doing for Disney Plus in the future, which will have Talos and Agent Fury in it. So Talos was the leader of the Skrulls
Yeah.
in Captain Marvel. So cool.
Was that the one who he appeared in that? I was like, never know when you're gonna have to borrow a cup of sugar, and he's like sipping his big gulp.
That's the same guy. Yeah,
Yeah,
I love him.
that was good.
Ben Kingsley is the actor who plays him, and he's just great as him.
Yeah.
And then the scene that you were alluding to, which was the drone shot of Wanda in the middle of a mountain range,
Like
just
in
drinking
Seattle
some
or
tea.
some shit. She's drinking some tea, and it pans back, and she's like in a trance, going through the book of the like what? Like she's
So-
really dabbling in that, or
I can elaborate on that too, because did you see Doctor Strange?
as when it came out.
Okay. Do you remember in Doctor Strange when there was a scene where Strange was sleeping, but it looked like there was a ghost version of him reading? So what Wanda is
Yeah.
doing is what he was doing, which is an astral projection.
Oh, okay.
So that allows her spirit to do something else while she's doing something else. Now, what's concerning about that shot is that when Strange did it, he was either asleep or unconscious.
She was just controlling it.
But she was awake and functioning while her astral projection is reading the Darkhold,
See,
which is another concerning
my
thing.
first thought is that Wanda's very powerful, and she doesn't always know how to control herself. And the Book of the Damned, that's some new voodoo we haven't seen. So, like, what if her spirit
Right.
latches onto that, and we get like a dark Wanda that she has to fight later on?
I don't.
You know what I mean?
I think it. I don't know if it'll be a dark one.
That's just
I do know
my immediate top of the head. Like, what if that happened?
I mean, when Agatha said Book of the Damned, I immediately thought, well, this has a connection to Mephisto.
Right.
Like we're not. I mean, we may not see him in this series, but we will definitely see him. We might see him in Multiverse of Madness. We might see him later on because he doesn't need to appear. Like he
No.
can be pulling the strings from behind the scenes.
He's a
but
presence. Essentially.
yeah, but the fact that she is reading from the Darkhold, which is essentially like the worst book you can read.
the
It's the most
anti-Bible.
powerful but also dark magic that you can read. I mean, I think she just saw it as, oh, well, she said I had a chapter on me. I might as well learn about it.
Yeah,
but doesn't realize it's the Darkhold. You don't want to read from that.
Right. That could inadvertently connect her to Mephisto, and then he could like say, "Ooh, she's really powerful. I could use her," and like he could like
Yeah.
latch onto and possess part of her soul with magic and power that's even beyond her understanding. And then she's
Well,
gotta
he could
fight
be
this-
he could be influencing her already because remember that right before that, right, she swiped the book closed or whatever she was doing there. You heard her kids speaking.
right.
Like they were calling for help, and that, I mean, it's possible that it could be their actual spirits.
right.
But again, in the comics, Tommy and Billy, their souls were originally shards of Mephisto. There is a really creepy image where you see these two kids being sucked back into Mephisto's body as his hands. And you just see these kids as his arms and hands being like assimilated back into him. Really creepy, but
Yeah,
like
it's unsettling.
that just, yeah. So I think Mephisto is influencing her to, go bad, and this is how he's doing it.
Yeah.
But like saying like, "Hey, you miss your kids? I have a way to bring them back."
Yeah. I don't know. I think part of me is just thinking about the Because like so much of WandaVision and delving into her past, Wanda was fighting with herself, but the internal grief. She was fighting herself internally. So like if we got like an evil possessed
Hmm.
version of Wanda Spears, she'd be fighting herself externally. Then we'd be
Right.
like covering the bases there.
It's like that thing where like you separate the bad part of you to like destroy it, but then you realize, no, I can't really destroy you because you're still a part
Yeah,
of
I
me.
mean, yeah, we got an anti-Vision who was still kind of Vision. Like,
Hmm.
it stands to reason
Yeah.
that we can get an anti-Wanda. I don't know. I
Yeah.
dig that idea because
Also,
we have a Wanda who doesn't isn't hateful, isn't evil by nature. She just does very morally murky things, which is still a
mhm,
caring human with the capacity to love. So to see a darker version of that where she just doesn't give a shit would be an interesting
right.
dichotomy,
And when you said earlier about how like people were memeing the "what is grief" line,
right?
no, I think people were gonna meme the "I request elaboration." So since we pretty much talked about this, real quick. I mean, as quick as we can. What did you like about the series, and what did you think? But what did you think it needed to work on, or what did you think that was a loose end that needed to be tied up?
Uh, Again, I only watched every episode once, so if I binged it multiple times, I could probably give you more of each. But overall, I like how we delved into the grief of Wanda and how you internalize and how you handle grief and trauma. I think there was a lot of, you could say, social commentary about how a lot of that works. And Wanda and Vision are, again, aside from Thor, they're my absolute favorite characters in the Avengers. Like I really don't care about too many others, to be honest. I always loved their dynamic. I like Vision
Hmm.
being all like pragmatic and stoic, but also has the capacity to love and feel in his own way. And how Wanda, ever since she was a kid, she couldn't, when your boat gets rocked that hard, your capacity to feel and love changes. So the only person she could
Hmm.
really kind of relate to and connect to is somebody who doesn't have typical human emotions because
Right.
she couldn't process hers ever, so the only way she can process them is with someone who doesn't do it normally, as it were. So
Yeah.
again, I could write a fucking essay on Wanda and Vision and just that aspect of it. But I
Hmm.
love how it explored all the grief and how it's handled and how she's not a bad person. She just doesn't know how to really function much as a human, really. Like she doesn't know how to process feelings because once she was a little girl, like it was just a straight shot of nothing but shit. From the time she
Yeah.
was a little kid to the time she was a full grown ass woman. And
Hmm.
that's gonna mess somebody up, and that's why she's sympathetic, and you can't really judge her all that harshly. So I really like that. I like how I enjoyed the reference porn, as it were, of like the 10 million different little nods and Easter eggs and hints and
Hmm.
references. And I didn't know who Monica was at first, because obviously last time I saw her, she was like 6 years old. So I like the fact that, like, oh, that's her. She's here. Wow.
Yeah.
I had that kind of moment. I'm like, I thought that was really cool. Bringing her back, having Darcy be the same Darcy we knew, but having more of a horse in this race because she's now Doctor, and she's got more of a
Doctor,
hand in
yes.
things. And I liked her involvement. Um, she was easily one of my favorite side characters in the MCU. I like to see her take more center stage. More of her. I like to see more of her.
Yeah.
And Paul Bettany kills it as always. Elizabeth Olsen killing it.
Hmm.
Things I didn't like. I feel like a lot. Well, and again, Marvel just does this in general. I feel like there's a lot of things that were kind of just yada yada and like kind of glossed over. But like that, they do that so much. I think. But at
Right.
the end of the day, you kind of just have to just accept it. I'm like, it's a device to get you from here to here. You don't always have to. But that's part of my problem. I dissect everything way more than I should. So that could just be a me
Yeah.
problem. But I do feel, but despite my own biases, I do feel like they could have explained certain things a little bit better. But
Hmm.
whatever. It is what it is. It was fun. I enjoyed it. From hate it to like it to love it to whatever. I liked it. It was good.
Hmm.
Wins my approval.
I yeah, I mean, you've said a lot of the things that I was gonna say. With liking it, like you said, it's a whole study. It could be a whole like masterclass of how to, process grief or how grief happens, in a superhero sense,
Right.
because not everyone has the ability to, make their own sitcom in the
Right.
pocket universe.
And we can't always
Um,
personify our emotions in the sense that you literally scream and like
right,
bring out the reality that you wish you had but was always robbed from you.
exactly. And I think, I mean, we see how much everything impacted her, even like the smallest things. Like this, I didn't catch this at all in the first episode, and they connected it to episode 8. New Rockstars pointed this out, and I was like, whoa. If you remember in the first episode, the Sokovian greeting that Paul Bettany came up with, where they cover their eyes, is like, oh, is that my host? Okay. So like, we all thought that was just a throwaway joke. Like it was just, oh, I'm just trying to cover it up. But
Right.
then you go into episode 8 where she says, my pick isn't here. It's like, oh, I put it in the special place. Her mom goes and covers her eyes before he brings out the Dick Van Dyke Show. And I saw that and I'm like, oh, wow. Holy crap. I never would have thought of that. Like, the way Marvel just,
And the thing is, it wasn't
weave stuff in.
the characters didn't obviously knowingly do that. That was more of like a wink to the viewer, like with the
Hmm.
writers. And it was good. That was clever. Like Marvel does a lot of clever little things like that.
Yeah. Oh, they know how to pull a long con, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Now things I think they needed to work on, like you said, there's going to be a lot of stuff that they don't answer because these these products that they put out, they're meant to be, seen in succession. Like you want to, like if you're going to watch WandaVision, you're going to want to watch Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, Multiverse of Madness, and then
Right.
the
They're
Eternals and
meant to
so
get you
on.
excited for future properties.
Yeah, like having said that, there's like, aside from those loose ends that we knew we were going to expect, one thing I wanted to know more about was who was the missing witness that Jimmy Woo talked about, because he was there because his missing witness wasn't answering, but we got
Right.
no indication of who that was, and they didn't specify that Ralph was a missing witness, and so we don't know if that was him or if there's
Yeah.
someone else in the town.
I mean, that
Like,
could have
is
just
it? Yeah.
been a plot device. Like that maybe didn't have to be somebody in particular. That could have just been what led them into digging more into it. If that makes
Hmm.
any sense.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea too, but I still would have wished that they had like some sort of loose end, unless Marvel Point Along Con does something later on. It's like, oh, you remember that missing witness in WandaVision?
Right.
Well, turns out it was the mailman all along.
Disney Plus
Uh,
series number 47, The Missing Witness, coming in 2027.
yeah,
Hey, I'd watch it.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do that, because that would be a big moment. Like, oh, like I can imagine, when we're all able to go to a theater again, all the nerds are in the theater, like, wait a minute, wait a minute.
Yeah. Well, that's
So,
the thing. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I could just imagine that happening, and I'm excited for it. I'm excited for that again. Um, as far as rating it, like I don't really like a lot of like miniseries type stuff, because I'm one of those guys where when when their season is ended, I'm like, okay, when's the next season that I can binge watch or something like that.
Right.
But this, I'm actually satisfied that this is not more than a one season, because granted, they have loose ends that need to be tied up. Again, it's Marvel, they always do. They're gonna say solve it later, but for this story, I think there really isn't a point to have another season. Like, Wanda's moved on. She's not going to create another. I don't think she's going to create another pocket reality
Hey,
somewhere, and it's going to be a whole new cast.
yeah.
I
I'd say if they were to continue it, it would be more character driven and less so like they wouldn't focus as much on the world, the sitcom. It would
Right.
just be more about Wanda herself and not as much other people
Hmm.
because I still want to know what's going on with her reading through that damn book. like,
Yeah,
like
but
I'm
again,
like we can't just
that'll
leave
be
that.
answered in. I mean, like I said, that's going to be answered in other properties though too.
Hopefully,
Like, she's going to be in Multiverse of Madness, so
right.
we'll see what happens.
We'll see her like, I picked up a few
Now
new tricks.
I would love if they make a joke series that's called Agatha All Along.
Yeah.
And just have Catherine Hahn just like going through town as Agnes, like, "Hi, hun, how you doing, Dottie?"
Yeah. Oh,
Be fun.
speaking of
I'd
Agnes,
love it.
the way they used colors to kind of tell the stories of the different, magics and whatever. When
Mhm.
when I guess Sleepy Vision Wanda was reading through the book, notice how her aura was like a mix of that red and Agnes's purple.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, she also
subtle hints like
absorbed
that.
Agatha's magic.
Right, but I like that subtle variation of like not only did she absorb it and kind of take it away from her, she's using the voodoo now. Like she ain't afraid
Yeah.
of it. Yeah.
Right.
I want to see, like, I know the story of Wanda's been a dark one, but I want to see some more. I like dark shit. I'm an edgelord. I
Mhm.
want to see more of that. But, yeah.
But man, it's gonna be hard to top this series.
Yeah.
I don't want to look at it as like, well, what do you guys have next? Because I don't want to look at it that because each series that is coming out has their own ensemble and their own tone. But I would say if WandaVision does not get considered for any Emmys or anything like that, I'm gonna kind of be pissed.
Yeah. Me too.
Because it's going to be just a case of, oh, it's a superhero series, no one cares. I'm like, we do.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
Marvel movies have really brought that kind of stuff into the mainstream, so I don't think people will be quite as dismissive about it as they would have been maybe like 10, 12 years ago.
well, especially since it goes through a study of something that's so deep that a lot of people do go through.
Yeah.
So
Well, it might be a little bit too deep
you know,
for the average person to grasp, but yeah, it's something that can be very real
well,
and
if my
tangible.
mom can understand it, I think a lot of people can understand it. So I think it should be considered, even if it's like an actor or actress nod, like a supporting or lead actor nomination. Even that
Right.
I still think would be a win. I'm not saying it should be like, I'm not saying it would get like TV show of the year, but if it does, it'd be great.
Well, like the actors
But
deserve it now, because to see the man we know as Vision go, I was just playing with the horse's shoes. Like, yeah.
I've
been feeling weedy all
I've been
day.
feeling weedy all day.
Like, I thought this was just for mastication. Oh no, I don't do that.
Is this your card? I beg to differ. All right, well, let's talk about what's next. So the next series that is being released is Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which will be released on the what day is it? 19th. On March 19th, which is at the time we're recording this next week. So that is going to be a 6-episode series. I think that's also a mini series. I don't think they're going to do more than one season of that. Who knows? There is speculation going around that the Loki series has already been renewed for a second season despite it not being released.
And rumors.
I don't know about that.
I mean, it's
We'll
kind
see.
of hard to do that if the first season isn't even seen by anybody yet.
Well, it also depends on the what connections they have too, because like Disney already knows, Loki is a humongous fan favorite, so
Yeah.
it would make sense if they do more than one of that. I'm like when all the series were announced, WandaVision was the one that stuck out to me. It was when it was ranked, it was like WandaVision, Loki, and then Falcon and Winter Soldier. And that's not saying I was least excited about Falcon and Winter Soldier. It's just like you've got these 3 series of these 3 like character ensembles that are just like, oh my god. Like,
Right.
we're getting all of this. Like, even if you rank like which one you're most excited about, it's like I'm excited about all 3. Like,
Yeah.
we're getting a sitcom, we're getting a buddy cop, we're getting a mystery. Like,
I
we're
think most
getting
people
all of
have
these
that
things.
order, the same order as you do in order of excitement, because you have the Scarlet Witch and the Vision, right? Then you have Loki. Then you have metal, flying gun guy and metal arm guy. So it's like, obviously, who are you going to be more
excuse
excited
me.
about?
The name is Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Get it right.
You have
Sam
a metal
and
arm,
Bucky.
dude? That's awesome.
I can't wait for it. I've seen
Tom Holland
previews
was
of it, and
perfect
I'm
as
getting
Spider-Man,
excited.
by the way.
Yeah. Which that is expected, I think either late this year or early next year is when Spider-Man might be coming out. So we'll see. But what do you think you're looking forward to in Falcon and Winter Soldier though?
just seeing Sam and Bucky's dynamic. Can you move your seat up? No. Like just that kind of shit. Like you couldn't have done that earlier. I hate you. Like just seeing them because they would totally be a comedic duo. And honestly, like I don't even care story-wise what else goes on with them. The whole Winter Soldier storyline, and the only thing that kind of bugged me about that was how those other super soldiers, I forget what they were called, but Bucky was like they could take a whole the Death Squad or whatever. Like they could take a whole country down overnight. I'm like, okay, if they've been around so long and they can do that, why have we never heard of them or seen them do literally anything? Right. You know, like that. I'm hoping we get more like of the super secret covert like super soldier stuff. I kind of hope we get some of that fleshed out. But that's completely secondary. I never cared too much about that. I just want to see them play off each other because they're fucking hilarious together.
They're great. Well, we'll find out more about that when it comes out. But I want to ask you guys, what did you all think about WandaVision? Did you enjoy it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What was your favorite things? What's your theories that from this series? Leave a comment below below our video, and feel free to follow us on social media too to continue this conversation. You can follow me at Kavo the Goblin, which you can find right down here below. You can find AJ at
AJ9Lives.
That's your cue
on Twitter. AJ9 number 9 LIVESS. I tweet a lot. Don't find me anywhere else. Just Twitter.
You should see it below here on the lower part of the screen too.
Feel free to tweet at me saying how horrible my opinions are. He's not a real Marvel fan. He doesn't know what he's talking about, which is all about 50% true. So, I mean, I'm not even going to argue with you.
Well, that's going to do it for After the Fact. We'll be doing a little more of this for Falcon and Winter Soldier, so stay tuned for that. But until then, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye now.
Bye.